Where does mindset come from, and why is it so important to know, to understand, to realize where the history of mindset is from? Hi, I'm David Dubé, and in this episode, I want to talk about mindset and the history of mindset and where it comes from. Now, if you've never done research on this, and most people, I'd say, almost everyone, I don't know anyone who's ever talked about this at all, anywhere. I've never seen content like this and never heard of content like this. In all my years of research on mindset, and also in all my years of teaching mindset, no one's talked about this. Now, if you don't know, I am the co-author of a book called HD Mindset, HD being high definition mindset, with my good friend Anthony Verderami, great guy, awesome guy, hypnotherapist, and we co-authored this book together. You can find that on Amazon. I would strongly recommend a read on that. It is awesome content, but I digress when it comes to that. Let's get to this topic of the history of mindset, shall we? Now, the history of mindset goes way back into ancient times, and this is where it's very cool, but it's also very confusing, especially for those of you who may not prescribe to some of the context of mindset and the history of it. And I'm just going to touch on that, but then I'll get to the more recent history of mindset, and then we'll bring it to current day. So in talking about that, you have to go back to like the Vedic text and the Mahabharata. If you've never heard of that, it's Indian text. And there's wars between gods, demigods, and man, and how those took place. Now, you can talk about this with the Bible, and if you're talking in regards to the Bible or the Quran, especially the Bible, you're going to have to look at the Gnostic Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls if you want true and accurate information on this, where there were gods, or God, demigods, and then man. And these demigods were called the Nephilim. And I'm not going to go into the history on that. I'll let you find that for yourself and read up on it, but it's extremely intriguing information that you can find there. There's also a bunch of millions of clay tablets found in Sumeria, and if you've not heard of Sumeria, this is the cradle of civilization. The first texts ever written were found there, and they're on these clay tablets. They have millions of them, and there's a gentleman by the name of Zecharia Sitchin who actually decoded a lot of these and translated them. And he also talks about the gods, the demigods, and man. And to me, it's an intriguing thing between the separations of them. And then we can go into Roman times and Greek times and talk about the mythological gods and demigods and also man, and the differentiating factors between them, and how that brought on the new or the modern age of classifications, and where mindset separation really truly takes place, and the history of it really comes into formation. And if you haven't heard of this, there's this system called the caste system. Now, this is something you can easily do research on, and this is where really the modern time version of mindset separation and classifications of mindsets comes into play. And if you Google it, I'd Google European caste system. Now, there is also the caste system, which is native to India, and either one of these are classifications of groupings of individuals or people. And this isn't something that is often talked about in India. This is something, it's a non-touch subject, which means you don't talk about it. You don't bring it up. And the European version, it's still around, but it's also not talked about, and it's not touched on very much at all. But it's very interesting. And I'm going to talk about the European one because it's going to be most relatable to anyone probably paying attention or listening to this. And in it, there's 5 levels of the system. And actually, there's 6 levels, but I'll cover 5 of those. And once again, you can Google this. You can research this on your own. And it begins at the bottom level. The base level is that of the peasant. Now, if you move up from that, you have the farmer, and you move up one more level from that, you have the landowners, which were the knights and the vassals. And then you move up from that, you have the aristocrats, and then you move up from that, and at the very top, you have royalty. And this this builds the caste system from bottom to top. Now, above royalty in its own kind of echelon there is the church. So if you ever wonder who's truly in power, just take a look at the caste system. Anyway, the intriguing part of this whole thing is the education that separated these classes. And I want you to really, really think about this and how this predictively creates our modern time with our school systems now. So in the caste system, way back when, you had the peasants. Now, the peasants were probably taught, now they didn't have schools, they didn't have boarding schools, they didn't have any of this. They were just taught their trade. So you may have been a blacksmith, you may have been, a horseshoe maker and attacher to horses, whatever they would call them. Then you would have cobblers, clothing makers, bakers, and things like that. And then you move up from that and you have the farmers. The farmers obviously had to learn their trade and their craft quickly and disseminate to their children quickly how to do what they did, whether or not they grew crops and harvested crops or they grew livestock or did both. And you have to imagine that the classification, the differences between them was fairly vast in what they knew and also who they had access to. You see, as a peasant, you had access to the farmers, but you didn't have access to knights and vassals. You didn't have access to landowners. The only time you had access to the landowners is when they came to collect, right? They had to collect the taxes, and they collect the taxes for guess who? Well, they collect the taxes for the aristocrats just above them. And the aristocrats obviously paid those to the royalty. And now the question too is, do you think that those landowners, which was between the knights and the vassals, do you think they taught their children the same things as the farmers taught their children? Absolutely not. In fact, this is probably where reading and writing became something, right? It was the level of the vassal on up. They would learn those things because, well, if they want to move into the echelon of aristocrats, where they had money, and they taught their children how to acquire money and keep money. This is so key to the entire thing, to acquire money and keep money. You see, knights, you could be a peasant and eventually become a knight, but what were they meant for? Knights were meant to protect those above them, not below them. I want you to really think about this. This is so important in the separation of classes and the mindsets that came along with them. It's so different. Now, obviously royalty. Do you think royalty taught their children the same thing as the vassals, as the farmers, or as the peasants? Absolutely not. There's no question about it. They were taught differently. And so this is key, this is paramount to understanding the difference in the mindsets of individuals everywhere around the world and why people are the way they are. And when you can realize this, and you see now in Western society, in our society now, these lines are very blurred. They're so blurred. You can't even cross these lines without getting a slap on the wrist. But you don't see them, and you don't see them easily. That's the crazy thing. It's so crazy to me. Our current school system, the public school system, when was that created? I'll give you a moment. When was it created? It was created during the Industrial Revolution. Why? Why was it created during the Industrial Revolution? You see, and who created it, by the way? And what do you think they were there to teach you to do? Do you think what you learn in public school is different than what people learn in private school, or even above private school in private academies? Do you think they're different? Absolutely they're different. And why are they so different? Why are they different? There's keys that unlock certain things here. You see, you pay to play is what they call it. And when you do that, it becomes the people you hang around, the people you actually know who can actually lead you into newer directions. And it's crazy how resources become this huge separating factor, and they teach you only what you need to know because, why? It's all you need to know. And it limits you from achieving greater results. Why does it limit you from achieving greater results? Because you don't need to know how to achieve more. And this, my friend, leads to the new paradigm. This leads to the new challenges. See, a lot of people are being exposed to new concepts and new ideas and new paradigms when it comes to financial freedom and it comes to spiritual freedom and coming to enlightenment and achieving new heights and new things in their lives. And the crazy part about it is we are so indoctrinated. We are so indoctrinated by the system that's here right now, and these lines are blurred. You can't even see the lines. We're so indoctrinated by them that even learning a new concept and a new idea and implementing, we hit these barriers again and again and again as we're just trying to breach a new level of consciousness, breach a new level of who we are. But the reason why we hit these barriers is because they're put in place for a reason. They don't want you to have more than you have. You're not supposed to have more than you have. I just read an article yesterday about more people, more middle Americans who are sleeping in their cars because they have no money. They have no money. They are literally broke individuals living paycheck to paycheck or even below paycheck to paycheck each and every single month. And it's devastating to read about. Like, this middle class is separating. It's not even there anymore. You're either the have or the have-nots now. And even though this time in America, more millionaires are being produced every single day than any other time, the separation between those who have money and have no money is getting wider and wider, and it's crazy to me. And it all has to do with the systems that you don't see running in place. And if you want to change these systems, if you want to change the paradigms, and you want to get out of the brokenness, and you want to achieve greater results, I'm going to give you a mega, huge key to unlocking your potential. And the key is this: turn off, and I'm going to say this with a swear word, the fucking TV. Turn it off. Don't watch it. Or watch only shows that inspire you, and don't watch the news, and don't watch anything with any huge amount of violence. Or if you do it on so thin, like so random, occasional, that it doesn't affect your mindset. Stay away from shows that show extreme drama and trauma. They are literally screwing you out of your future. Okay? You have to separate yourself from what the lower society rungs attach themselves to in order to achieve greater results. If you don't break the pattern, no one else is going to do it for you. No one's going to do it for you. So if you want to reach greater and higher results in your life, you have to begin to do these things. Now, I actually have a private Facebook group called Mindset Breakthroughs that you and anyone else who wants to is allowed to join. And I teach a lot of this stuff in there. I go over the things that help you break your barriers so you, my friend, can achieve greater results in your life. If you want to be a part of that, feel free to go onto Facebook and search Mindset Breakthroughs, and you will find it very easily. And join us in helping break these barriers that are holding you back from achieving your dreams, from achieving the results you truly desire in your life. I'm David Dubé with only one you need. It's time that you be the person you're meant to be, believe in all that you're capable of, and become more than you thought imaginable. Do yourself and other people a favor and share this out with the world. They will appreciate you, I will appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care.